22 Famous Rock Star Couples Then and Now. Part 1. Welcome to the famous people. You think rock stars can't do long-term love? Think again. From wild backstage hookups to decades of unbreakable commitment, these 22 couples prove that rock and romance can survive anything. Some still look like rebels, others are completely unrecognizable. You're about to see transformations that will blow your mind. Which rock star couple do you think has the most surprising love story? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us until the end. You won't want to miss number 17. Wait, before we dive in, here's a quick challenge for you. Look closely at this face. Do you recognize this legendary rock icon? You've got 10 seconds. Drop their name in the comments if you're a true fan. Let's see who's still got those rock star recognition skills. All right, let's kick off our journey with one of rock's most iconic couples. Keith Richards and Patti Hansen. When Keith Richards met Patti Hansen in 1979 at Studio 54, no one expected the notoriously wild Rolling Stones guitarist to settle down. At the time, Keith was at the height of his fame and infamy, while Patti was one of the top supermodels in America, featured on the covers of Vogue, Glamour, and Cosmopolitan. Their introduction came through mutual friends during the height of the disco era, and while Keith was known for his chaotic lifestyle, Patti brought a calming, grounded presence. They were married on December 18, 1983, in a small but star-studded ceremony in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, with guests including Mick Jagger. It was also Keith's 40th birthday. The couple welcomed 2 daughters shortly after, Theodora in 1985 and Alexandra in 1986. Patti gradually stepped back from modeling to focus on family life, while Keith continued touring and recording with the Rolling Stones throughout the late 80s and 90s. As time passed, the couple remained unusually stable by rock star standards. While Keith faced several health challenges and the Stones navigated internal conflicts, Patti stood by him, often credited with helping him maintain a sense of stability. Unlike many celebrity marriages of their era, theirs never became tabloid fodder. In recent years, Keith and Patti have embraced a more low-key lifestyle, dividing their time between homes in Weston, Connecticut, and New York City. They occasionally attend public events together, where fans note how grounded and affectionate they remain. Keith still performs live, including on the Stones' 2024 Hackney Diamonds tour, while Patti has returned to modeling in limited campaigns, including a celebrated shoot with her daughters. Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne. Few couples in rock history have weathered as many storms, public and private, as Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne. Their relationship began in the late 1970s, when Sharon was working for her father, music manager Don Arden, and Ozzy had just been fired from Black Sabbath. Sharon saw not only the chaos in Ozzy, but also his potential. She took control of his solo career, helped launch his comeback with the 1980 album Blizzard of Oz, and stood by him through the most volatile chapters of his life. The couple married on July 4, 1982, in Maui, Hawaii. Over the years, they raised 3 children, Amy, Kelly, and Jack, while balancing career chaos, addiction battles, and near divorce more than once. In 1989, Ozzy was arrested for attempting to strangle Sharon while under the influence, yet the two remained together. Sharon later called it the lowest point in their marriage. Their public image changed dramatically in the 2000s when the Osbournes' reality show aired on MTV, introducing a new generation to their offbeat, foul-mouthed, and oddly endearing family life. The show premiered in 2002 and became a cultural phenomenon, turning Sharon into a household name and media personality in her own right. In the last decade, Ozzy has faced numerous health issues, including Parkinson's disease, spinal surgery, and multiple falls. Despite these challenges, he released a solo album, Patient Number 9, in 2022 and continues to express hope of returning to the stage. Sharon, meanwhile, has remained a constant figure in television and in Ozzy's recovery. Bono and Ali Hewson. Long before U2 became one of the biggest rock bands in the world, Bono was just Paul Hewson, a teenager at Mount Temple Comprehensive School in Dublin. That's where he met Alison Stewart, now Ali Hewson, in 1973. They were both just 13 years old. Their relationship began during those early school years and continued as U2 rose to global fame through the late 70s and early 80s. They married on August 21, 1982, at the Church of Ireland parish in Raheny, Dublin, with Bono already balancing the pressures of touring and recording as U2's lead vocalist. As the band exploded with albums like The Joshua Tree, 1987, and Achtung Baby, 1991, Ali maintained a remarkably private life, raising their 4 children while building a name for herself in humanitarian and ethical business work. Ali holds a degree in politics and sociology and has long been involved in global activism. In 2005, she co-founded Adune, an eco-conscious fashion label focused on fair trade and African production. Unlike many celebrity spouses, she never sought the spotlight and rarely gave interviews, choosing instead to support causes related to the environment, women's health, and anti-poverty initiatives. Their public appearances are rare but impactful. At U2 events or charity galas, they're often seen side by side, understated but completely in sync. Bono has frequently credited Ali with keeping him grounded. "Ali is smarter than me," he told The Independent in 2016. "She always was." Ringo Starr and Barbara Bach. When Beatles drummer Ringo Starr met American actress and former Bond girl Barbara Bach on the set of Caveman in 1980, both were coming off difficult periods in their lives. Ringo had spent the years after the Beatles' breakup in a haze of alcohol and excess, while Barbara had struggled to find meaningful film roles after her appearance in The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. But something clicked immediately. They were married on April 27, 1981, at Marylebone Town Hall in London. Just a few years into their marriage, both entered rehab in 1988 after realizing their substance abuse had become life-threatening. Ringo later called it one of the most important moments of their lives, a turning point that brought real clarity and commitment. Over the decades, the couple has rarely been apart. Barbara has stayed largely out of the spotlight, turning her attention to charity work, particularly animal rights and environmental causes. Ringo, meanwhile, reinvented himself as a solo performer with his all-star band, which has toured consistently since 1989. Today, they're often seen walking red carpets together, holding hands and smiling with the comfort of a partnership that has weathered fame, addiction, and aging in the public eye. In interviews, Ringo never hesitates to praise Barbara's influence on his life, frequently calling her his anchor. Sting and Trudie Styler. Sting and Trudie Styler's relationship is one of rock music's most enduring and, at times, most talked about. They met in 1982 when Sting was still married to his first wife, Frances Tomelty, and Trudie was a close friend of the couple. The fallout from their relationship's beginnings was intense, with tabloid scrutiny and public criticism, especially in the UK press. Despite the rocky start, their relationship deepened over time. After a decade together, they married in a civil ceremony on August 20, 1992, in Wiltshire, England, followed by a religious ceremony the next day. By then, they had already welcomed 2 of their 4 children. Through the decades, Sting and Trudie have built a partnership that stretches far beyond romance. They've co-founded multiple charitable initiatives, including the Rainforest Foundation in 1989, which supports indigenous communities in the Amazon. While Sting maintained a prolific music career, both with the Police and as a solo artist, Trudie pursued acting and producing, even earning a BAFTA nomination for Moon, 2009. Known for their spiritual lifestyle and openness about their relationship, they've been candid about therapy, long conversations, and emotional commitment. Sting once joked on Inside the Actors Studio about their 7-hour tantric sessions, which became a pop culture meme, but later clarified it was more metaphorical than literal. Today, Sting and Trudie split their time between their homes in England and Tuscany. Both are still professionally active. Sting continues to tour and release music, while Trudie produces socially conscious films and documentaries. Jon Bon Jovi and Dorothea Hurley. Jon Bon Jovi may be the face of stadium rock, but his most enduring hit might just be his marriage to Dorothea Hurley. They met in high school in Sayreville, New Jersey during the late 1970s. Jon was already the cool kid with rock star dreams, while Dorothea was a champion gymnast with a no-nonsense attitude that grounded him. Their friendship blossomed into romance, and unlike many rock relationships, theirs started long before fame. In 1989, during a break from Bon Jovi's New Jersey tour, Jon and Dorothea eloped to Las Vegas. The quickie wedding at the Graceland Wedding Chapel shocked fans and even bandmates. Jon later admitted they kept it quiet to avoid media frenzy, but he never regretted the decision. Over the years, while Jon fronted one of the world's most successful bands, selling over 130 million records, Dorothea remained behind the scenes, raising their 4 children and co-founding philanthropic ventures. Together, they launched the Jon Bon Jovi Soul Foundation, which addresses poverty and homelessness through initiatives like the Soul Kitchen community restaurants. Their bond has endured career highs, personal struggles, and constant public scrutiny. Dorothea, known for her privacy, rarely grants interviews, but Jon frequently credits her with being his moral compass. "She's the glue," he said in a 2020 interview. "I'm just the crazy dreamer, and she keeps it real." Today, they remain happily married, living between New Jersey and Florida. As Jon continues to record and tour, their connection remains one of the most rock-solid in the industry. From high school sweethearts to philanthropic power couple, their story proves that sometimes love off stage is the real showstopper. Duff McKagan and Susan Holmes. When Guns N' Roses bassist Duff McKagan met supermodel Susan Holmes in the late 1990s, he was already a survivor of the excesses of the 80s rock scene. After years of hard partying and health scares, including a near-fatal bout with acute pancreatitis in 1994, Duff had turned a corner. Meeting Susan marked another turning point, one that added stability to his recovery and rebooted life. They married on August 28, 1999, in a private ceremony. By then, Susan had already graced runways and magazine covers for Versace, Fendi, and Playboy. Her image was that of a classic American beauty, but her presence in Duff's life offered much more than glamour. They welcomed their first daughter, Grace, in 1997, followed by May Marie in 2000. Duff credits fatherhood and Susan's grounding influence as key reasons he's remained sober since the late 90s. Unlike many rock star model relationships that burn out quickly, theirs has lasted over 2 decades with little public drama. Susan, who later founded her own swimwear line, often accompanies Duff on tours and red carpets. She's also authored a novel and has spoken publicly about family life, fame, and motherhood. Duff, meanwhile, rejoined Guns N' Roses in 2016 for the wildly successful Not in This Lifetime reunion tour, and he continues to perform and record with the band. He's also become a respected voice on personal transformation, having written 2 memoirs, It's So Easy and Other Lies, and How to Be a Man, both of which reflect on his life with Susan and their shared values. Dave Grohl and Jordyn Blum. Dave Grohl met Jordyn Blum in 2001 at the Sunset Marquis Hotel in Los Angeles during what he later described as a tipsy conversation that turned into something meaningful. Jordyn, a former model and MTV producer, wasn't part of the rock scene per se. but she wasn't intimidated by it either. That grounded presence would become essential in Grohl's world. They married in August 2003 in a quiet ceremony attended by close friends and family. By then, Grohl had already transitioned from being Nirvana's legendary drummer to the frontman of Foo Fighters, a band that was rapidly becoming a rock staple in its own right. Jordyn, meanwhile, stepped back from her entertainment career to focus on family. The couple welcomed their first daughter, Violet, in 2006, followed by Harper in 2009 and Ophelia in 2014. As Foo Fighters toured the world, Jordyn remained the center of Dave's home life. He often credits her with keeping him balanced amid the chaos of fame. In interviews, Grohl calls fatherhood his proudest achievement and speaks glowingly of his wife's quiet strength. In a 2021 speech at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, Grohl emotionally thanked Jordyn for being the rock in my life. In recent years, Jordyn has occasionally appeared with Dave at award shows and charitable events, but generally avoids the spotlight. Their eldest daughter, Violet, has even joined her father on stage, suggesting a musical legacy in the making. Alice Cooper and Cheryl Goddard. Alice Cooper's on-stage persona is one of horror, blood, and shock rock chaos. But off-stage, he's lived a remarkably stable and long-lasting love story with Cheryl Goddard. The two met in 1975 when Cheryl, then just 18 years old, was a professional ballerina hired as a dancer on his Welcome to My Nightmare tour. She caught his eye during rehearsals and never left his side. They married on March 20th, 1976, in Acapulco, Mexico. Cheryl became a pillar of support as Alice battled alcoholism and drug addiction through the late 70s and early 80s. Their relationship faced serious strain, especially in 1983 when they briefly separated due to Alice's drinking. But after entering rehab, he credited Cheryl, and his Christian faith, with saving his life. Together they raised 3 children, Calico, Dash, and Sonora, while Alice continued to tour relentlessly. Cheryl often joined him on stage over the decades, performing as various theatrical characters in his shows. Their professional collaboration added another layer to a relationship already built on deep personal resilience. Alice has long claimed they've never spent more than a week apart in nearly 50 years of marriage. In interviews, he refers to Cheryl not just as his wife, but as his best friend and muse. In 2019, they made headlines when Alice joked in an interview that they had a death pact because he couldn't imagine living without her, later clarifying it as a figure of speech. Gene Simmons and Shannon Tweed. Gene Simmons, the tongue-wagging, fire-breathing frontman of Kiss, built his image on excess, women, wealth, and rock and roll bravado. For decades, he famously declared he would never marry. But Shannon Tweed, the Canadian model and actress he met in 1983, would eventually change all of that. Their early relationship wasn't always smooth. Shannon was vocal about Gene's womanizing past, and their long-term partnership often appeared strained during public appearances and in their reality show Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, which aired from 2006 to 2012. The show offered a behind-the-scenes look at their family life with their 2 children, Nick and Sophie, and revealed a dynamic far more emotional than Simmons' stage persona let on. After 28 years together, Gene finally proposed in Belize, and the two were married on October 1st, 2011, in Beverly Hills. It was a significant moment, especially given Gene's prior stance on marriage. In interviews since, he said, "I didn't know what love was until I met Shannon." Today, the couple lives between Los Angeles and Whistler, Canada. Shannon has remained active in charity work and continues to appear occasionally in film and television, while Gene maintains a busy schedule with Kiss's farewell tours and business ventures, including merchandising, real estate, and licensing. Though their marriage began late, it now stands as one of the longest in rock, defying Gene's original no strings attached philosophy. Their relationship, once built on friction and patience, has evolved into a lasting partnership rooted in mutual respect, shared family values, and a surprising sense of humor. For a man who once sang "Love 'em and leave 'em," Gene Simmons has proven he can love and stay for real. Sammy Hagar and Kari Hagar. Known as the Red Rocker, Sammy Hagar built a career on high-octane vocals, tequila-fueled energy, and a rock persona that never seemed to slow down. But behind his energetic on-stage presence is a quieter, more grounded relationship with his wife, Kari Hagar. They met in the early 1990s during Sammy's time with Van Halen and married on November 29, 1995, in a private ceremony. Kari quickly became a stabilizing force in Sammy's life. After years of touring, partying, and the tumultuous breakup with his first wife, Betsy Berardi, who was with him during his Montrose and early solo career days, Kari brought a fresh start. Together they have 2 daughters, Kama and Samantha, and have built a life that blends family, business, and adventure. While Sammy is known for his music, he's also an entrepreneur, having launched the Cabo Wabo tequila brand in the late 90s. Kari supported the venture behind the scenes, even helping shape the brand's laid-back but premium identity. After selling 80% of Cabo Wabo for $80 million in 2007, the Hagars doubled down on building a lifestyle empire, opening restaurants, producing spirits like Santo Tequila, and managing a philanthropic foundation. The couple splits their time between homes in Northern California, Cabo San Lucas, and Hawaii. Though they maintain a relatively private personal life, they're frequently seen together at charity events, red carpets, and music festivals. Sammy often credits Kari for keeping his ego in check and helping him stay connected to what truly matters. Sebastian Bach and Suzanne Le. Sebastian Bach, the former frontman of Skid Row, is known for his high-pitched screams, big hair, and wild stage presence. But behind the rock persona is a much more grounded chapter of his life: his marriage to Suzanne Le, a model and actress who first caught his eye in 2010. The two met at a party through mutual friends in Hollywood, not long after Sebastian's divorce from his first wife, Maria Birk, with whom he has 3 children. Their relationship moved quickly. After dating for 2 years, Sebastian proposed to Suzanne in 2012. They tied the knot on August 22, 2015, in an intimate ceremony in Beverly Hills, surrounded by family and friends. Suzanne, who previously appeared on the VH1 reality show Ex-Wives of Rock, brought a new spark to Sebastian's life during a transitional period in his solo career. During the 2010s, Sebastian released solo albums, toured frequently, and made appearances on Broadway and in reality TV. Suzanne often traveled with him, offering a steady presence off stage. Though not one to chase the spotlight, she has appeared in his social media posts and interviews, often praised for her humor and patience. The couple doesn't have children together, but they've built a quiet and consistent life side by side. In recent years, Sebastian has expressed gratitude for finding peace in his personal life after the chaos of his earlier fame. While his Skid Row days were filled with drama and breakups, his life with Suzanne has brought something he didn't have back then: balance. Billie Joe Armstrong and Adrienne Armstrong. Long before Green Day became one of the biggest punk bands in the world, Billie Joe Armstrong was just a teenager from Rodeo, California, playing in garage bands and trying to make sense of life through music. In 1990, while on tour in Minnesota with his band, he met Adrienne Nesser, a political science student and music fan who attended one of their shows. The two kept in touch through handwritten letters, a romance that bloomed slowly but with surprising strength. They married on July 2, 1994, in a quiet backyard ceremony just one day after Billie proposed. Adrienne discovered she was pregnant that very day. Their first son, Joseph, was born in February 1995, followed by Jacob in 1998. Despite Green Day's explosive success after Dookie hit the charts, Adrienne stayed out of the spotlight, focusing on raising their children and eventually co-founding Adeline Street, a clothing line, and Adeline Records, a small indie label. Over the years, Billie has written numerous songs inspired by Adrienne, some raw, some romantic, others conflicted. Tracks like 2,000 Light Years Away and Extraordinary Girl are believed to be direct reflections of their relationship. Through decades of touring, press, and creative reinvention, Adrienne has remained Billie's steady anchor. Today, the couple lives in Oakland, California, where they've raised a close-knit family. Their son, Jacob, is now a musician in his own right, fronting the indie band Jacob Danger. Billie continues to tour with Green Day, release solo material, and speak openly about the emotional highs and lows of his journey. Ronnie Wood and Sally Humphries. When Rolling Stones guitarist Ronnie Wood married Sally Humphries in 2012, headlines immediately focused on their 31-year age gap. But their bond has proven to be far more enduring than tabloid fascination. They met through mutual friends in London's theater scene. Sally is a theater producer and former actress, and struck up a friendship that turned into romance years later. They wed in a private ceremony at the Dorchester Hotel in London on December 21, 2012, with close friends and family in attendance, including Rod Stewart as best man. At the time, Ronnie was 65 and Sally was 34. The couple welcomed twin daughters, Gracie Jane and Alice Rose, in May 2016, making Ronnie a father again in his late 60s. Before meeting Sally, Ronnie's life had been marked by decades of rock star excess, public battles with addiction, and 2 previous marriages. But since their union, he has maintained a healthier, more stable lifestyle, crediting Sally and fatherhood as life-changing. In interviews, he's described this chapter of his life as his most joyful and centered. Sally has embraced the role of wife and mother with grace, while continuing her work behind the scenes in theater and charity. Though she stays mostly out of the spotlight, she occasionally joins Ronnie at premieres, art exhibitions, and Stones-related events. Bruce Springsteen and Patti Scialfa. Bruce Springsteen and Patti Scialfa's relationship was born on stage, but forged through real life. They first met in the early 1980s at the Stone Pony, a legendary New Jersey music venue. Patti, a talented singer-songwriter from the Jersey Shore, joined the E Street Band in 1984, right as Bruce was embarking on his Born in the USA tour. Their chemistry was obvious, even then, but complicated. At the time, Bruce was married to actress Julianne Phillips. That marriage ended in 1989, and soon after, Bruce and Patti's relationship became official. Many saw her as the other woman, but those who knew them understood the deep artistic and emotional connection they shared. They married on June 8, 1991, in a small private ceremony at their Beverly Hills home. Already parents to son Evan, they went on to have 2 more children, Jessica and Sam. Patti stepped back from her solo career to focus on raising the family while continuing to perform with Bruce on stage, creating one of rock's most iconic musical partnerships. Through the decades, they've remained inseparable, sharing stages around the world, collaborating on albums, and appearing side by side at political events, fundraisers, and family milestones. Patti has earned recognition in her own right for her solo albums and songwriting, though she never sought the spotlight. Now, living primarily in Colts Neck, New Jersey, Bruce and Patti have watched their children thrive. Jessica is an Olympic equestrian, Sam is a firefighter, and Evan is a musician. Even after more than 30 years of marriage, their bond remains visible every time they step on stage together. Roger Daltrey and Heather Daltrey. Roger Daltrey, the powerhouse voice behind The Who, has been known for his ferocity on stage and his longevity in rock history. But behind the scenes, he's quietly maintained one of the longest marriages in the music world. Roger married Heather Taylor on July 19, 1971, and more than 5 decades later, they remain together, a rarity in any world, let alone rock and roll. Heather, a former model and actress, may be best remembered in pop culture as the muse behind Jimi Hendrix's classic song, Foxy Lady. She met Daltrey in the late 1960s and quickly became a grounding force in his life as The Who reached new levels of fame and chaos. At the time of their wedding, Roger was already a father and rock icon, navigating the pressures of global stardom. The couple had 3 children together, including Rosie Lee, while Roger also fathered several children from earlier relationships. Despite the complexities of their blended family and the temptations of the road, Heather remained steadfast. Their ability to maintain privacy and a strong family life has long impressed fans and peers alike. In later interviews, Roger often credits Heather with helping him avoid the pitfalls that claimed many of his contemporaries. While he continued to tour and record well into his 70s, often returning to perform Tommy or Quadrophenia, Heather has focused on their home life and family. Now well into their 70s, they enjoy a quieter lifestyle at their country estate in Sussex, England. Their marriage has endured through tragedy, change, and the long arc of rock history. For a man who once screamed, "Hope I die before I get old," Roger Daltrey has aged not only gracefully but lovingly, with Heather by his side. Pete Doherty and Katia DeVitas. Pete Doherty, once considered British rock's most notorious bad boy, shocked fans in the best way possible when he married Katia DeVitas in September 2021. The former Libertines and Baby Shambles frontman had long been associated with drug scandals, public meltdowns, and a chaotic love life, including his headline-grabbing relationship with supermodel Kate Moss. But with Katia, the story took a different, more hopeful turn. Katia is a musician and filmmaker, known for her work as the keyboardist in Pete's band Puta Madres. The two met while collaborating musically and gradually formed a deep connection rooted in shared creativity and calm. Unlike Pete's past high-profile romances, his relationship with Katia stayed mostly under the radar, quiet, supportive, and grounded. They married in a modest ceremony at a French countryside estate just days after announcing their engagement. The setting and the simplicity of it all stood in stark contrast to Pete's past. At the time, he had already moved to Normandy and adopted a quieter life focused on painting, songwriting, and staying clean. Katia played a significant role in that transformation, offering stability and encouragement during his recovery. Since their marriage, the couple has kept things low profile. Pete has continued making music, both solo and with the Libertines, and has also embraced visual art, holding several exhibitions of his paintings. Katia remains his creative partner and confidant, working on music videos, documentaries, and behind-the-scenes content for his projects. Now living a surprisingly peaceful life in northern France, Pete Doherty has traded the tabloids for a garden and a dog. With Katia DeVitas, he's found what once seemed impossible: consistency, sobriety, and a future worth building. Their love story is less rock and roll chaos and more rock-solid redemption. Ric Ocasek and Paulina Porizkova. When Ric Ocasek, the enigmatic frontman of the Cars, met supermodel Paulina Porizkova on the set of the band's 1984 music video Drive, their chemistry was immediate. He was 40, she was 19, and the pairing stunned many, yet their bond grew beyond the glare of industry and headlines. Ocasek had recently split from his second wife, and within 5 years, he and Paulina were married in 1989 on Saint Barthélemy. Paulina was at the height of her modeling career, gracing the covers of Vogue, Sports Illustrated, and walking runways worldwide. Ric, meanwhile, had just come off a string of hit albums with the Cars and was transitioning into producing music for others, including bands like Weezer. Despite their differences in age and industry reputation, their relationship was defined by deep artistic respect and a shared appreciation for quiet, private moments. They raised 2 sons together, Jonathan and Oliver, while balancing their own careers. Paulina took on acting roles and authored 2 books, while Ric retreated more from public life after the Cars' initial disbandment. Their marriage spanned 3 decades before they separated in 2017, though they never legally divorced. When Ric passed away in 2019 due to cardiovascular complications, Paulina was the one who found him in their shared Manhattan townhouse. In a deeply personal revelation, she later shared that she had continued caring for him daily, even while separated. The event left her emotionally shattered, especially after discovering he had excluded her from his will just weeks before his death. Joe Perry and Billie Montgomery. Joe Perry, co-founder and lead guitarist of Aerosmith, is the embodiment of classic American rock, explosive on stage, cool off stage, and remarkably resilient through decades of musical reinvention. Behind that image is his longtime wife, Billie Montgomery, a woman whose presence has quietly shaped one of rock's most enduring marriages. They met in the early 1980s, shortly after Joe divorced his first wife. Billie, a former model, entered his life as he was working to rebuild both personally and professionally. Aerosmith was in a rough patch at the time, with substance abuse and internal tensions threatening the band's future. Billie provided the grounding influence he needed. The 2 married in 1985. Their relationship became a turning point. Joe sobered up, rejoined Aerosmith's original lineup, and helped launch one of the most successful comeback stories in music history. Albums like Permanent Vacation, 1987, and Pump, 1989, re-established Aerosmith's dominance, while Billie focused on family and raising their children, Roman and Tony, away from the chaos of the road. Throughout the decades, Billie has largely avoided the spotlight, but remains a steady figure at Joe's side during public events and awards shows. She has supported his solo endeavors, including the Joe Perry Project and his autobiography, Rocks, My Life in and Out of Aerosmith, where he credits her with saving his life. The couple spends much of their time at their Vermont farmhouse, far removed from the glare of Los Angeles or New York. Joe, who continues to perform and record well into his 70s, often speaks about the importance of simplicity and family, something Billie helped him rediscover. Gwen Stefani and Gavin Rossdale. When Gwen Stefani and Gavin Rossdale first crossed paths in 1995, they were rising stars from opposite sides of the Atlantic. Gwen was fronting No Doubt, the California ska punk band about to explode with Tragic Kingdom, while Gavin led British alt-rock outfit Bush. They met when their bands were on tour together, and despite vastly different styles, her candy-colored punk edge versus his grunge brooding, something clicked. They married on September 14, 2002 in a lavish London ceremony, followed by a second celebration in Los Angeles. The union of 2 distinct music scenes captured media attention instantly. Over the years, they welcomed 3 sons, Kingston, Zuma, and Apollo, while maintaining successful individual careers. Gwen evolved from punk princess to pop icon, launching solo albums, fashion labels, and a coaching role on The Voice. Gavin continued with Bush, pursued solo work, and acted in indie films. Outwardly, they were one of music's most photogenic couples, constantly on red carpets, family outings, and tour stops. Behind the scenes, their marriage was less harmonious. In 2015, after nearly 13 years of marriage, Gwen filed for divorce amid revelations that Gavin had engaged in a long-term affair with the family's nanny. The split made headlines worldwide, not just for the betrayal, but because of the image they had long projected, one of unity and style. Though the marriage ended, both have remained committed to co-parenting. Gwen has since remarried country star Blake Shelton, while Gavin has kept a lower profile, continuing to make music and raise his sons. What once seemed like a rock-solid pairing proved fragile, but the legacy of their time together remains visible in their children and in the music that, for a time, brought two worlds together. James Hetfield and Francesca Hetfield. James Hetfield, co-founder and frontman of Metallica, built his reputation on intensity, both musically and personally. But behind the aggressive riffs and stage presence was a man seeking stability, something he found in Francesca Hetfield. The two met in the early 1990s when she was working as a costume designer for the band. Their relationship grew quietly, away from the chaos of touring. They married on August 17, 1997, and went on to raise three children, Callie, Castor, and Marcella. Francesca became a vital part of James's support system, particularly as he struggled with alcoholism, anger, and the pressures of fame. In interviews, James has credited her with saving his life, at one point throwing him out of the house, forcing him to seek treatment and begin a path toward recovery. Their relationship appeared solid for years. Francesca helped him maintain a life outside of Metallica's intense schedule, building a home in Colorado where he could focus on sobriety and fatherhood. The band's 2004 documentary, Some Kind of Monster, offered glimpses into James's inner turmoil, with Francesca always in the background, steady, calm, and committed. In 2022, news broke that James had quietly filed for divorce after 25 years of marriage. The separation came as a surprise to fans who had long seen the couple as an unshakable unit. Neither party has spoken publicly about the split, and they've kept details private, focusing instead on their children and personal healing. Paul Simon and Edie Brickell. When Paul Simon met Edie Brickell in 1988, it was a meeting of two musical minds from different generations. He was already a legend, half of Simon and Garfunkel and a solo artist with critically acclaimed albums like Graceland. Edie, 15 years younger, had just made waves with her band Edie Brickell and New Bohemians, thanks to the hit single What I Am. Their paths crossed when Edie performed on Saturday Night Live, where Paul happened to be in the audience. He later said he was immediately captivated, not just by her voice, but by her presence. They married in May 1992 in a private ceremony, and soon after started a family, raising three children together. Despite their public profiles, the couple has always preferred privacy. Edie scaled back her career to focus on motherhood, while Paul continued to tour and release new material. Their artistic lives occasionally overlapped, most notably in 2013 when they released a duet album, Love Has Come For You, in collaboration with Steve Martin. It marked one of the few times they performed and recorded together professionally. Their marriage hasn't been entirely without turbulence. In 2014, they were both arrested for a domestic dispute at their Connecticut home. The charges were quickly dropped, and both described the incident as a minor disagreement blown out of proportion. Through more than 3 decades together, Paul and Edie have quietly cultivated a relationship grounded in mutual respect and shared creativity. They divide their time between Connecticut and Montauk, often avoiding the spotlight altogether. While Paul announced his retirement from touring in 2018, his occasional returns to the stage have often been with Edie watching from the wings. These 22 rock star couples have stood the test of time or crumbled under the spotlight. Some found lasting love while others faced scandals, splits, and shocking twists. But here's the real question. Do you think fame helps or destroys relationships? Who do you think had the most surprising transformation over the years? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're ready for the debate. And if you enjoyed this dive into the past and present, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to The Famous People for Part 2 and more rock history.